Welcome to another episode of Does This Offend You? Today we talk about men's mental health. Will Smith at the Oscars, obviously. Are men allowed to share their emotions, or should they keep them bottled up inside until the world's next school shooting? All this and more on Does This Offend You? Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. Tell your bros you love them. See you in a minute.
What do I have to say to make some money? What do I have to say to make some money? No offense.
Welcome in, everybody. Episode 8. Today we are talking about what, Vlad? Lead the way.
We're going to talk about male mental health, and because Will Smith smacked the living crap out of Chris Rock. We're going to talk about what could have possibly pushed Will Smith in his life and his experience professionally and the world of memes on the internet to basically snap, go on live TV, walk across a whole stage during the Grammys, walk up to another comedian, slap him, then go back on the way saying, "Keep my wife's name out your motherfucking mouth." There we go.
What a brilliant reenactment.
I don't think he said motherfucking. Could you do that again, but a little more accurately,
Line?
please?
Can we get the line? Oh,
Yeah.
is it just fucking? It's just fucking.
Can we just-
Vlad.
can we just run the whole clip?
Samuel
Can
L.
we run the whole
Jackson?
clip?
It was Will
Can we just
Smith.
run the whole clip, pleplease?
I don't know if I have the legal rights to do that, but I can put a link in the description.
No,
Yeah.
Don't run the.
I'll put the link in the description for some. I don't know, someone, and whoever's putting it on the internet. None of it's legal. Like the Oscars own it, I guess. But anyway, if you can find it, it's super easy to find. But yeah, by now, what is it? It's like Tuesday. Oscars were on Sunday. Everyone's seen the clip by now. If you haven't seen it,
Get out of the rock you're hiding under.
yeah, it's been everywhere. So basically, do you want to describe what happened to all the people who don't know what happened?
So basically, Chris Rock, the comedian, made a joke referencing G.I. Joe, but said G.I. Jane in regards to Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett. And I guess she has some sort of disease or illness at this point that's causing her baldness. And funny enough, everybody was laughing, including Will Smith, when the joke happened. But then I guess Jada Pinkett looked over at Will in a not so happy look. So Will, having to be the husband, got up, walked over to Chris Rock and smacked him across the face, and essentially in the most polite public manner told him to keep his wife's name out of his mouth. Yeah, and my whole thing is that I'm at this point, there's been a huge backlash behind it because everybody's talking about how Jada Pinkett has essentially broken Will Smith and brought him to this point of his life where he's a former shell of himself. It's not the first time that he's been made fun of because he's been expressing his emotional status. They have their own podcast where they talk about their crap, and one of the episodes, it was revealed that Jada Pinkett Smith was sleeping with another man, aka her son's friend, August something. And I guess they were on a break or some crap like that. They had some sort of issues in their marriage, and so this was all pre-approved, I guess, to some extent. Anyway, this got out. There was a huge backlash on the podcast video. Will Smith is genuinely looking like he's just been like dragged through the dirt, like he's ready to start crying, and people.
Another meme, right?
Another
Sorry,
meme. Yeah,
That's the other
He
one.
replaced the Jordan meme for a little bit.
for
That was
crying,
pretty
yeah.
funny.
and people were just dragging that. I mean, the poor guy through the mud with that meme nonstop because he just looked like he was a wreck. And all of this, I feel like this situation and possibly more in that whole family have kind of accumulated over time and brought Will Smith to this kind of breaking point where he's just lashing out publicly now and crying on TV and slapping people and God knows what else he'll do next. And it just kind of made me think about how much pressure, men, at least in American society, are put under constantly with like this whole aspect of emotional expression. And I bring this up too because I've had a few people in my life recently who are telling me particularly to open up more about my feelings. I'm just kind of like, fuck no, that's not how that works for me.
Yeah, the Russian way.
Yeah, so it's definitely been kind of like a whole.
We are robot. We don't have no feelings. We burn shit. Physics.
Like I said, emotions are for gay dudes and women, but not me. Anyway, with all due respect, like I said, I want to talk about that and kind of delve into the rhetoric of what men are essentially put through and how it's affecting men.
Okay. Before I really get into think of this, I'd like to address the actual cause, like the source of this episode's topic, which is the fact that Will Smith. I mean, I remember the meme and I remember the interview where he was like pretty distraught about everything, but I also remember other like videos that he's put out himself where he talks about how like their relationship is they kind of do things independently. It looks like a lot of what they do is by choice. Like I think it's like they have like an open relationship also or something. Like they're two they're like independent people who like want a journey in life together, which is kind of like a sentiment I totally agree with actually. Um Now the actual instance where he went up and essentially assaulted Chris Rock, I mean you spin it in a way where it make it sound like Jada was the cause of his like frustration. He had to like go up and do it. I mean, is that what you're saying? Like he's under a lot of pressure, so he like reacted in a sort of way.
I think the fact that he was at first laughing at the joke in the video, that you can clearly see he is enjoying the joke, and then he turns over to her and she's kind of scrunching her face at him. I think that's what triggered him. So,
I don't remember seeing that, to be
well,
honest.
rerun the clip and watch it.
Yeah, I do. I remember he was laughing at first. It seemed pretty genuine, and then all of a sudden, yeah, it turned quickly, like instantaneously. And I don't know if
I don't know if she's. I don't think she told him or like him like go beat his ass type of thing. But I think that him seeing her react that way, something inside of him kind of snapped. And I mean, in regards to their relationship, I don't know the details again from when their whole entire when the infidelity thing happened. Um, they were supposedly on bad terms, and they were quote unquote taking a break. So that's why she went and hooked up with her son's friend. It's again, this is not centering entirely around the aspect of Jada being the central cause of his reaction. I think it's a partial. I think it's a piece that has definitely given into his life because I feel like that whole family lives a very strange lifestyle. I remember Will Smith's son Jaden had some weird shit going on with his life too in regards to his relationships, his public image, all this stuff. And every family has their kinks. Nobody is entirely perfect. No family is. I think that's just more or less of how he's been able to process all the pressures that he's constantly under as being the father, the man in the house type of thing, at the same time being in the public eye. And I think that we're seeing the end result of his behavior being the direct repercussion of basically being at times, the laughing stock of the internet. Being subjected to, constant criticism of like, why are you with your whore wife? She cheated on you. Why are you with her?
Gotcha.
Fuck that bitch, type of thing. Like, he's been dragged through the dirt by other celebrities,
Okay.
by online trolls. And it's like all of a sudden, like, oh, now you want to get up and back up your whore wife in comparison to a friend of yours who's also a comedian who did it out of a lighthearted joke. And you've been a comedian before, and you've made probably some offensive jokes. So why are you suddenly now getting up and backing your whore wife, type of thing? It's stuff like that. And like I said, it's a play on multiple factors because he has that past relationship thing that's still haunting him, that I'm sure is playing some sort of difficult part for him. At the same time, he's having to deal with this new wave of shit because it seems like everybody is divided in the community, whether it's Hollywood, the Oscars, or or just in the general public. Half the people are backing Will Smith, half the people are backing Chris Rock. I think it's interesting that Chris Rock isn't, pressing charges on him, which is a good thing because I think Chris Rock understands, like, yeah, I kind of crossed the line, maybe, even though it wasn't a very offensive joke in my personal opinion. Like, it was very minor. I think that we'll end the concept of jokes being too far or super offensive. I think we'll get later into different episode down the line for like if comedy is cancel culture kind of like killing comedy. But at this point, yeah, with mental health, what do you guys think? Do you think that men in the U.S. particularly are, handling emotional stress well? Are we, dealing with drama, for instance, that happened in our life? Because drama you can't escape. Unfortunately, it happens with you one way or another. Whether you're dating somebody and something happens, your friends find out, your family finds out, shit gets poured out, it affects you. Do you feel like men are handling that sort of thing well? Or do you think that society's standards of saying, hey, you need to toughen the fuck up, stop crying a little bitch, and, move on. Keep yourself busy with work. Go work out so you can, feel better after a heartbreak. And don't talk, about bullshit that women do or gay guys do.
I have two comments on that. The very beginning, I quote you, Vlad, when you said feelings are for women and gay people. So that I can see where you stand probably on that. And second, I'm not sure if this is a mental health thing, because if you guys are alleging that Will Smith was laughing at the joke and then he decided to go up and slap Chris Rock for his wife's honor, is that really a mental health thing? Or was he just trying to stand up for his wife the best way he knew how, which was making a statement that this is not gonna fly, and it was on national television, so everybody now knows not to do it.
I
I don't know. Is this a mental health thing? Because it seems like he was cool with it up until he was allegedly coerced into doing it.
So, I mean, for me personally, I think that it's partially to do with mental health because he doesn't know how to cope with the pressure of having his wife be the butt of a joke. Whether it's a super offensive joke, whether it's a kind of a shitty, like, not very good joke. Chris Rock, no offense, that joke was not funny. It wasn't very offensive in my opinion, but it wasn't very funny. It was kind of like a really shitty swipe that didn't really chuckle
I mean,
anybody.
It would.
yeah. To me, it seemed like just a joke that was kind of in passing, but it wasn't anything that was meant to be like the grand punchline. He was just like
Yeah,
riffing, and if anything,
yeah.
it wasn't supposed to be like the grand joke of the whole thing. But again, I don't know how are we connecting the dots to mental health and Will Smith's reaction after we're saying that he was pressured into doing it.
Like I said, I think that
Like he was okay with the joke before.
I understand. The joke was being. I think that Will Smith's reaction is more or less a buildup of overall lifespan of being under stress and having to endure all the things that he's gone through. With the example of being of like I said, from the example of his wife basically telling him like, yeah, I slept with our son's friend, and him being the butt of jokes at that point where it's like you're not man enough for your wife, and like the memes are coming out right now where people are saying like Chris Rock and Will Smith squashed their beef because Will Smith let Chris Rock sleep with his wife, or any of the other hundreds of memes that are out there at the moment floating around. People are taking a swipe at Will's manlyhood. People are saying, look, dude, when you had the chance and should have said something to your wife and put her in her fucking place and said, hey, you dumb fucking bitch, why the fuck are you doing this? Versus now when it's like, it's a really simply shitty joke, and now you're deciding to jump up and fucking act like a tough guy?
What does that mean? Put her in her
Yeah,
place.
what is she was doing nothing at the time. I don't
No, no,
understand.
no. Let's go, Vlad.
No, that's what I'm trying.
What's going
That's what I'm
on
trying to
here?
explain is
I
that
don't
people,
understand.
dude, people.
You see that joke? You fucking don't do it. Like I don't know what does it have to do with anything. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
No, like I said,
funny
with the whole
image.
problem, the whole situation is that everybody and their mother was trying to get on freaking Will Smith's case, being like, oh, Jada Smith is ruining his mental health. That was the thing that was trending for a while. That's one of the things that people picked up on with him getting out of his seat to walk over and basically, assault Chris Rock, was because of his mental health being so badly distraught at this point by his wife that he has no real self-control. He doesn't know what's right and wrong anymore. He doesn't have that complicity to really distinguish what's acceptable, what's not. It's because of his wife that it's happening. That's what the argument is for a lot of people.
Well, I mean, based on the things that you're saying, you're making it sound like he did it because he wanted to reestablish his manhood based on
Yeah, and people
everything
are
you're
saying,
saying.
why are you now choosing to reestablish your manhood when you should have reestablished your manhood with your own fucking wife when she was fucking one of your son's friends?
And didn't he address that by saying they were in an open
No, no,
relationship?
they were on a break. And I mean, he could have said whatever he wanted. The problem is his body language during that interview when they were talking about it was literally just like a man holding onto a string of life at that point.
Okay.
You can say,
Okay.
listen, just because he said something doesn't mean that he fucking meant it.
Okay, let me start from the top here. So do you guys understand the joke that he made? So Vlad, you said earlier that it was a GI Joe joke, but did you you know what he was referencing?
Let me look it up. So
You don't have to look it up. It's from a movie called GI Jane that she was in. She shaved her head because she was in the army. The joke that Chris Rock was making was that she was preparing for a sequel in which she shaved her head again for the same role. The underlying the heart of the joke is that she has alopecia, which means she obviously doesn't have a choice in how her hair is going. It's gone. Her hair is gone. It's falling out of her head. That's the joke. And I know, like, as someone who suffered from, like, this is like a funny little quip. Take it for what you will. You guys know me. I have gone to Turkey twice. We made a reference to this in 2 episodes ago. I have like gotten my hair. I have male pattern baldness. I've had it for like 10 years, and I got it really early on in life, like in my late teens to early 20s. So I got all that shit fixed. And I understand how it can take like a mental toll on somebody. It's like a stifling confidence issue. And it doesn't happen to women too often, but I can only imagine what it means to women. I mean, like, it sucks. That's like a 1 in a million shot of a woman losing their hair. And it's like, I understand how it plays a lot into your image and like the way you want to look. It's not always easy to just accept the bald look for anybody. So she recently came out and she's like, I have alopecia. Now I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna just be bald from now on. So Chris Rock was playing on that whole thing. It was a whole. I get the joke. The reaction is where I don't get. That Will Smith went up and just smacked the man across the face. Nothing should escalate into violence. I mean,
no, there are
don't know,
definitely things
no.
you can push somebody by saying certain things. Like if somebody mentions your family in like a threatening manner.
So every time it's gonna be violence when someone talks about your family. Like,
No, it's not every single time. There's gonna be.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that anybody with the brain can have a line that you don't cross.
Okay, well, I mean that's the territory with jokes. And
Yeah.
any actor, anyone of prominence will tell you it comes with the territory. If you're famous, you are. You know what I did today? I watched a bunch of roasts, and guess what happens? It's a bunch of famous people. They've had notoriety in society, which makes them easy targets for jokes because their life is always visible to everybody.
Yeah, and that's
easy,
the,
they're
that's
easy
the question.
targets.
That's the question that falls
Okay.
into mental health in that aspect. How do they handle that?
I don't see now. It's like a mental health of being a star versus mental health of a man. So if you want to talk about like if we're gonna try to like focus in on one part of mental health, which is like from a man's perspective, like men's mental health. Yeah,
I mean,
Will Smith.
you can spin it both ways. You can have it locally in your everyday life, like like for example, Steve. He's one of our friends. We constantly roast him over the times. He's gotten pissed off a lot, dude. He gets at certain points. He gets to breaking points. Where he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you guys. You know. So
I think we've barely done anything to him, but it's not because he's a man. It's just he's our friend. But I'm trying to grasp the subject here. So let me put this into perspective for you. If you're a man and your wife's sitting next to you and she's being insulted, okay, I'm Will Smith. It's the Oscars. She just got diagnosed with alopecia. It's basically ruining her fucking life. And as the person who's supposed to be by her side, a joke comes flying her way. She doesn't do anything about it. Now, here's something that's specific to men's mental health in society. Chivalry, big issue, because everyone says chivalry is dead. Very famous saying, but I don't think it's completely dead. But every time you're like, I guess a guy is always looked at as somebody who has to be the defender, right? So Will Smith
is one of
took
the forms, yes, of mental health.
right. So Will Smith is now taking like he's in that seat. He was laughing. And then as soon as I think what happened was the disconnect was he was like laughing, looking at Chris Rock, and he looks to his left and he sees his wife clearly distraught. So she did not find it funny. So as a man, right, you have to like defend her honor or whatever the fucking old ways are. They weren't going up and slapping a man in the face. No, but I understand that like if he had done nothing in his brain, maybe that would have been something like men would take issue with, like, oh my god, you're such a little pussy. Why didn't you defend your wife or whatever?
Yeah,
like,
and
I don't know.
that's the
like,
same argument that he had with when she said like, yeah, I slept with our son's friend. People were like, why don't you deal with your wife then, and make it to clear to her like you cheated, like get the fuck out of my house type of thing.
No, we're talking about two different things.
No, I know,
There's-
but I'm
yeah.
saying what I'm giving you the response of backlash that he's receiving. Right now, people are saying you are doing too much. Before, people are saying you weren't doing enough.
Okay, I get you. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I don't know what place in the world a man has. It's either like, yeah, you're not doing enough. You're being a little. You're like you can be cited as being weak for multiple things, and they could be completely like contrasting ideas too, which is completely frustrating as a man. Like, yeah, for once, you're not standing up for yourself, like in front of your wife, or
Yeah.
the opposite is you're not standing up for your wife. In both instances, you're looked at as it's
Lesser.
weakness.
Yeah, as
Yeah, lesser, whatever it is. Yeah, and that's something that's totally like a men's mental health issue. And I if that really was going on in Will Smith's head, I don't I don't blame him 100% for his reaction. Violence isn't warranted, but also I kind of get it. I get why he got up and did that. If that's the real story, it'll never be in his head, but that's just one, I guess, perspective.
The other issues is as well, like with in regards to Jada Pinkett, she comes out now and says like, "Hey, we need peace afterwards," which is like, okay, cool, you're doing your thing. When the Hunter fiasco with the cheating scandal happened, she came out and said we were on a break. Wasn't much of a defense, but I mean that's what it was. It's their marriage. I can't really say anything. I think for me it's a weird thing. I probably wouldn't be okay with that. I don't know about how you guys feel with in regards to people and infidelity, but
I know how Ross Geller would feel about it,
okay.
but I digress. But I digress.
Okay.
All right, yeah.
So for me, more or less, of like the question is again, what I'm saying is simply enough. At the end of the day, I'm just curious, and this is again me tying back into the conversation of me being told like, "Hey, you should open up this and that. You should react more or tell people your feelings." Is are men handling emotional distress, mental health well in this country particularly? And I think it's a very broad thing to say because we have a very large uptick of leftist versus conservative mentality where, right wingers will say, pull it together, handle your shit, stop, don't cry, push through the pain. Versus leftists will tell you, be in touch with your emotions, cry, like, get in touch with your feminine side. What are your guys' thoughts on both sides of the aisle giving young men advice on how to handle mental distress? What is your cognitive observation on that?
Oh, do you mind if I take this? I don't know if Omid even has an
Go
opinion.
for it.
Okay, so
Go for it.
yeah, I personally, like, I don't really buy into the whole, like, I know the world is always telling you one thing. When I grew up, it's like I couldn't express emotion. I couldn't express emotions, period. Like, a man or a woman, whatever I identify as. I'm a man, I get that. But, like, I didn't care for emotion to begin with. And I don't know if that stemmed from the fact that I was a male. But I think over time I learned to kind of, like, develop and control my feelings and understand myself. I'm trying to think of specific instances when I was growing up where, yeah, I mean, when I was socializing growing up, before, like, 2020 came around and people were, like, openly accepting whatever, like, leftist ideals were just fucking everywhere. Yeah, I mean, like, I seldom remember a time where I was, like, open and upfront with my emotions until I matured. But that maturity was obviously, like, hindered by how the male, like, ideal, like, the ideology is like, yeah, keep your shit to yourself, or else you look quote unquote gay, or you're lame, you're weak, whatever. Insert the insulting phrase here. That's always prevalent. And what's the phrase? Toxic masculinity now.
Yeah.
Right. It's the fact that if you show any one emotion to any of your male peers, then it's, like, weird, which it really isn't. Like, do you want me to be super, like, transparent on this podcast, Vlad? Do you want to talk about last night? You want to talk about last night?
Oh no, like I said, you can talk about the reason why this whole conversation kind of happens because I have a friend who he's gay too, and we were talking about how me personally I don't really even know how this would be, but he was like, yeah, I've had females and him and others who are like, you need to show more emotion because you're kind of like a walking brick. You don't really you don't show any feelings besides maybe you're happy and having a good time, you're just laughing, but besides that, you're just kind of like, that's it. And I said, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? What do I look like a fucking? I mean, I told him like, dude, I don't know what you're referring to. For me, for the most part, usually women are the ones who are more emotional, to my understanding, versus men. We're usually supposed to be, more cognitive, logically based. We're supposed to be put together because we're the ones who kind of have a different mentality, I guess, in a sense. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure there are a bunch of freaking cupcakes out there who are very much like down to go fucking stargazing and flower picking and chicken. That's cool, but I'm not. I'd rather get something, useful done in my time.
So you never shared like a tequila or whatever amongst your friends, and it got serious, it got real for a minute. You never done anything like that?
No, like you'll have a toast, you'll say, I appreciate you guys, real ones, but I feel like when Jay was talking to me, he was just kind of being like, you need to go further, or like when I've had girls talk to me, they're like, you need to go further. And I'm kind of like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? Like, I get like there's boys' nights and boys talking, you have like have a drunk moment, you guys have a good connection. I don't get so fucking, I rarely get so goddamn pissed drunk that I'm just like, I love you guys so much. Like,
No, but I'm asking, have you ever gone to a real place though with it? Not just the banter. Has it ever just been at the end of the night, not the toast, like 4 hours after that, and it's like
No.
kind of calm? You never had those moments with anybody,
think
not even
so.
your family, friends, girlfriend, nothing.
Nah, I don't think so.
Okay, I don't know if that's a men's issue rather than it is personal, to be honest.
I
I
mean,
feel
I've known enough. I know enough dudes who are just kind of like, yeah, I don't really do that kind of shit. I'm sure. No, like I said, I know guys from all walks of life. I know guys who are very like, I'm tough, I'm in control, I'm the leadership kind. I will not, bend my knee to anybody. I will not, soil my dignity. I will be the man that you can rely on, type of thing. And then there's guys who are like, yeah, I'm just gonna flow with it, or like I feel like something's bothering me and express myself very clearly and like make people understand that I'm not happy and I'm not comfortable, or I don't take that very well and it hurts me. Like some people really literally spill their guts, specifically out of the men group that I know. But like I said, guys come from all walks of life. The question is, how do we criticize that kind of thing? And how do like, for the soft guys, how do they handle being told, hey, you're weak, you're lesser? And for the guys who are, quote unquote tough, how do they handle being told, you're like a fucking robot? Like Omid called me earlier, saying that Russians have no emotions, that we're just literally walking steamboats or whatever.
Yeah.
I never said a walking steamboat because steamboats float on water,
Okay,
okay?
sorry. Jesus.
Second of all, if I am to chime in on this situation, I think it's a very interesting one where I think it just depends person on person how they decide to allow their emotions to surface. I think there are some people that have been born with, situations where they've always been taught to suppress their emotions, and there's other ones that have been born feeling the need to always express them. And I think Bill Burr made a joke about this once where he was criticizing the fact that he's not allowed to say the word faggot anymore, primarily because he'd get canceled. But he was like, no, it's a word that we used to say all the damn time. Like if you're playing hockey with the boys outside and you fall on your ass and someone wants to pick you up, you're like, get your hand away from me, faggot. And he was talking about, and then he made another joke where he referenced that moment as, yeah, it's how we have to be. We can't show weakness. Like, how do you think it feels like to be a man and you're not allowed to say that a puppy is cute? Like, you just have all of these feelings pent up inside of you and sometimes just let it out in a rage. That's probably why men commit domestic violence, because they're not allowed to say a puppy's fucking cute. And I thought that was a very interesting joke, but it kind of doesn't really hit home for me. But I can see where he's coming from, where we grew up believing that if you expressed your emotions as a guy, if you cried, if you showed any form of weakness, you were looked at as weak, and that was not okay. Nowadays, it's not seen as weakness. If anything, they almost embrace that feeling and they say, no, let it out because this is how you feel better by letting it out. But now we're kind of seeing a shift and a kind of dependence to wanting to let it out. And now you have two different schools of thought, which you have depicted as the right versus the left, which I just think is two different forms of being raised. There's some people that are raised with the idea that no, it's healthy to express yourself regardless of your political side. And then there's people that were raised believing that no, you gotta hold it in and control yourself and essentially self-soothe, figure out your shit, put it away. It's almost like you have to train yourself to become indifferent. You have to train yourself to not react emotionally to things because that's gonna be your if that's gonna be your knee-jerk reaction, you're always gonna be seeking for that hug, for that attention, for that help. And I
So do
think
you
therapy is what
so do you think that you were saying that we were raised? Do you think that's an old-fashioned family, like foreigner family type of mentality?
I think so. It's definitely one of. It's not just foreigners though. I'm sure you can go into any area in America and find Americans that feel the exact same way. No, that's weak shit. I don't cry. I never
I
express
feel
my
like I
emotions. Something gives me a problem, I kill
I
them.
feel like a lot of in families, a lot of times, like especially fathers associate, if their kid starts showing a lot of emotion, they associate that with homosexuality in a sense.
And in a way, it was a joke back in the day. Yeah, they were like, "Oh, what are you gay?" It didn't mean you were actually gay, but it was a criticism that most men didn't want to hear. It was, they took it personally because, you can call it a deep-seated homophobia or a fear of being gay themselves. Who knows? But it was mostly just seen as shaming someone more than anything. It wasn't actually like, I mean, to a certain extent, yeah, you're making them feel bad for potentially wanting to fuck dudes.
Or being
But at
themselves.
the same time, it was mostly just the idea of shaming someone like, oh, you're a pussy, but you want to make it hit home, you do. Now, when it comes to the idea of therapy, though, that's also a very, very like first world problem. Most people that want to express their emotions generally do it with friends, and if you can't afford to have friends, well, damn, I think that's where you start to see the formation of a sociopathy, because how else are you supposed to deal with that shit? You just have to convince yourself that you're better than everyone else and you're different than them, and you go shoot up schools. So, I don't know who's right, but there's definitely a problem with people who need to let their emotions out and don't have an outlet for it.
So I guess my next question is, do men really need to release their emotions to basically not end up cracking under the pressure?
Do I look like a psychologist to you?
Yes.
No, any.
I'm kidding. I'm making a joke from the SCOTUS thing. But no, do men need to? It depends. I think generally it's healthy for people to let their emotions out, but I'm not one to say that it's, 100% everybody has to do it. I
And what's
think it just
acceptable in that case? Like, what kind of emotions are we talking about here? Do we let out just like sorrow and joy, or do we let out like actual anger?
everything. Men aren't allowed to show any emotion. We can't show affection.
We can show
We
anger.
can't we can show anger, but it's again, it doesn't look that good. What did people expect Will Smith to do? If he didn't do anything outwardly, he would have gotten criticized. He wouldn't. No one would have said anything. Nobody would have thought twice about the joke. But instead, he responded with anger. And now look out what happened. If after the show there was reports of Will Smith going up to Chris Rock and having a talking with him about talking about his wife, or hell, if he slapped him backstage, it would have been a completely different news story.
Agreed. If he came up to him and said, "Listen, dude, you crossed the line. Don't do that shit. It's a health factor." I'm sure Chris Rock would have apologized and afterwards been like, "Hey, you know what, guys? I just want to make a public apology. My joke went too far." And that I think would have flown much better for both of them. But because he overstepped it, he lost control, quote unquote, which a lot of people are saying like he had no self resistance at that point. That's where the issue lies. But I think Danny wanted to say something.
I forgot, to be honest. Oh, well, yeah, that's right. Away. So I remember this based on what you were saying. So, yeah, the answer to your question is everybody. Men, women, my fucking dog. I don't even own a dog, but if I did, every creature on this planet needs the capacity to share emotion. Not just needs. They do. They have the capacity, and they have
And
to
how
do
much? How much emotion?
it. I can't answer that for you, but you're right. Maybe it varies by male or female, but it's not like it can just be pent up forever. And I think it's an impossibility because then you are a robot. I feel like in one way or another, whether it be like you come home from work one day and your beer's not cold enough and you want to fucking break it open against your skull, or if you're like a regular, or if, I don't know, maybe you're just on the phone with your friend on a daily basis and everything's fine. Like, it's your emotions are real and they're gonna come out in some shape or form.
Yeah, Steve.
So that's very simple. That's a simple answer to that question. The hard part to answer is yes. To what degree are you allowed to express yourself, and what happens when you don't? I mean, yeah, you get that sociopath, you get the school shooting. I don't know, man. Like, man, what if you just
Do you
don't
think-
give a
do you
shit about
generally-
most
Let's go down
Yeah,
that vein.
yeah.
Let's
Do
go
you
down
really
that
think
vein.
that school shooters
Why
are
is
because
this
of
the
that?
conversation? I think it's obvious that we should be allowed to express our emotions, but what made it so that men weren't allowed to do it? What triggered that? I mean, I feel like it might have been people that expressed them too much, or they expressed too much fear, or maybe they just got really fucking annoying. Nobody wants to hear that shit. Men, for the most part, we don't have conversations like that yet. Hey man, let me tell you about why I had a sad day today. For the most part, our conversations are, hey man, you see this? Or, hey, let me share something I've discovered today about, stock exchange or some shit. Like, oh, you see LeBron's game last night? It's just the normal conversation. And I think a lot of times we suppress those emotions because it turns into a conversation of, oh, you think you have it bad? Listen to my fucking bullshit. And it turns into a competition. So I think
That is
one of the
true.
bigger issues becomes the suppression of people who want to express something. But I think that definitely comes from people expressing it too much. Like, to be honest, I generally don't really care too much about how a lot of people feel or what they're going through with their day. If they feel the need to express it to me, I'm not going to shut them up because I know that's hurtful. But a lot of times, especially if I'm in a mood, I'm just going to say, shut the fuck up. I haven't done it yet, but sometimes I'm just like, I'm going through some shit myself. Oh no, I think I might be COVID positive. Motherfucker, my aunt's in the hospital because she has cancer. You think I give a fuck about your COVID scare? You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
you're absolutely right. I think there is definitely some sort of like nuisance slash competition that exists between not just men, but in general people, where it's kind of like, yo, fuck your problems. I have problems. We all have problems. Your problems aren't that important to me. Sorry to say it. Does that mean that we should be maybe more sympathetic towards one another? Actually listen and try to be like, yo, I get it, it sucks. I'm sorry.
I just think also people need to find the right time to express their emotions or the right people. I don't think for the most part everybody's trying to suppress your emotions, but it should be better known where there are better places to have those outlets, because there's going to be a lot of people who don't give a shit. Or for example, like, if you feel the need to express your emotions because you lost your cell phone, you're not going to sit down next to a homeless person and cry your eyes out being like, I can't call my boyfriend, meh, meh, meh. They're going to be like, bruh, you got food? For the most part, your problems don't mean jack shit to a lot of people. So expressing your emotions, yeah, it's important, but at the same time, I think some people just want to make a big deal out of nothing, and that's when it becomes problematic. Like, if you want to sit here and sulk about something serious, like, oh no, my sister's in the hospital. Oh no, someone stole my catalytic converter. Like, something shitty happened to me today, and I need to express that because I want to not feel anger. That's one thing. But if you want to express your emotions because you just want people to feel sorry for you, I'm sorry, but I don't give a fuck enough to have the emotional patience to want to feel sorry for somebody
So
right
how do you
now.
how do you distinguish between somebody who wants to just express their frustration versus somebody who wants people to feel sorry for themselves? Because I agree, there are people out there who are just looking for attention. There,
I think it all comes down to being able to assess the magnitude of your problem, and I think that's where self-soothing comes in handy, where when you sit back and listen more than you talk, you're allowed to really put your shit in perspective. And there's some people that self-soothe too much and they hold everything in. That might be a problem. But then there's people that share too much and they think everything's a problem because that's been positively reinforced with attention. So I genuinely think it's one of those things where you should listen more than you talk. like you have two ears and one mouth kind of deal. I think if more people listened and were more aware of what's going on in the world, or at least other people's worlds, they'd be a little bit more hesitant to want to gain sympathy from somebody that probably has other things to worry about.
Now, I agree with that completely, and I want to talk about how that plays into men's mental health, because I feel like exactly where you're coming from might be like a man's perspective about how much you share and when you share it. Very interesting. I like where we're going with this. So stay tuned. More on men's health when we come back. Does This Offend You is absolutely, definitely, and undoubtedly brought to you by this 100% totally real sponsor.
Are you planning to have a housewarming party, a birthday party, a college party, or maybe a funeral? Anything at all? And you need alcohol? Fuck beer. Fuck bottles. You want to have a good time. You want to such a good time you might black out. I have a solution for you. Jungle Juice. Let's get this rolling. All you need to do, you go to your local Bevmo, Total Wine, whatever you want. Buy yourself 4 to 10 different types of liquors. A bottle. I like to go with 4. Vodka, tequila, gin, and rum. Try to keep it the same color because you don't want to fucking die right away. Afterwards, you go in, you get some energy drinks. Because who wants to get drunk without the sugar rush? You get some Red Bulls, some Monsters, some whatever the fuck else is in there that gives you a freaking high like you're on cocaine. Do it. Afterwards, what do you need next? Fruit, strawberries, oranges, basic shit. Go to Costco. Costco, we got you. You know, drop by there, pick it up, cut it up, throw it in there. What else do we need? Lastly, oh yeah, can't forget the most important part, Kool-Aid. Go to your local junkie corner store, pick up a few baggies of that shit. Make sure there's nothing, it's not laced with shit or anything like that. Drop it in there. It's all foamy. Shake it up, stir it, pour it out. I promise you, after 3 cups, people will either be dead, have alcohol poisoning, or completely blacked out. It'll make for the perfect party. You will not regret it. Jungle Juice.
Oh my god.
Like the point is you're supposed to regret it. Doesn't sound like there's a good outcome for anybody in that.
Straight from the college vault with that advertisement. Jungle Juice. Fucking A, man. All right, dude, not bad for your first time, Vlad. In fact, that was very succinct and to the point. Much better than Omid's. I don't know why we let him do the commercials
like
most of the time.
Actually, Omid's a lot more inclined. I like his humor bone more than me. He actually makes me laugh.
You're more. I mean, you're more of a Billy Mays, man. You got right to the point, and I was engaged the entire time. Now I want to black out. You sold me on it. I want.
We still have bottles in the kitchen. I got you.
Where can I find jungle juice at this hour? I wonder. All right. Anyway. Oh yeah. For those who don't know, who don't even fucking care because it's not really relevant. If you notice, my background has changed since episode 6. It's because Vlad and I moved in together, so we changed locations. He's right on the other side of this wall, right here, and I regret every minute. I miss my own background. He sees me naked quite often. I do all the time. It's affecting me mentally. Speaking of mental health. Let's talk about men's mental health.
Speaking of mental health, remember last week when you guys made me get naked on camera?
Yeah, and you be gay if you didn't, bro.
You liked it.
You're not a man if you don't. You didn't accept our challenge. You're gay, bro.
I did accept your challenge because I'm manly.
Exactly.
He has the balls. He has the hairy balls.
That's the weird contrast we're talking about today's episode, men's mental health. So before the commercial break, we were talking about is there a time and a place where you're allowed to share your feelings? Omid brought up the scenario where you're on a bus and you just lost your phone and you don't want to talk to some homeless guy about your problems because in contrast, he's hungry and cold and et cetera, et cetera. So who gives a shit what your problems are? What that got me thinking a little bit was about how on a daily basis, I continually find myself just completely rife with aggravation because I feel like everyone around me are like bitching and complaining about their issues while I am doing none of that. And I don't know if that's a personal issue because I'm very confined. I don't know with my emotions. I only let them out at certain times, like Omid talked about. I don't know if that's a man issue, if it's personal, but I do agree with the sentiment that, you just you don't have just because you have a mouth doesn't mean you need to run it every day about every fucking thing that bothers you. And instantly judge people who are like that. Everyone around me. If they like come up to me with some weird issue, like I even know the type. And guess what? Here's the word again. In contrast, I feel like women are always just like there's always something, and it has to be immediate. Like this bothers me. Gotta talk about it. Gotta say it. This isn't me. And like I'm just like, dude, relax. It's fine. Like not a big issue. Really isn't. Doesn't need to be talked about. We'll get there when we get there. And like I don't know, man. I feel like that's just like kind of are men. I feel like men are more like that, more relaxed when it comes to certain things. Like I don't know. I don't find myself jumping on a lot of things emotionally all the time, even though they could be a little troublesome. I don't know. Like
How often do you guys hear people say, when you're trying to talk about something, people say, "Oh, you're killing the vibe," or "You're being a real drag right now," or "I don't want to hear this kind of shit." I think that's one of those like real setups, especially for guys, like I said specifically, because usually if a girl says something, guys listen. Sorry, not trying to be sexist, but it's kind of true. For the most part, if a girl says something, guys are going to be listening. They might not respond in the way that you want them to, but generally they hear you.
because there's an end to that. That's why it's disgusting why they're listening.
Yeah, well, they
Let's
want to
be
get
let's
laid.
be real.
They
Let's
wanna
be
get
real.
laid.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, continue.
Well, it's because how you interpret it. A lot of men interpret complaints a call to action, while other people just want to be listened to.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but like,
So I think that's just a lack of communication.
but I feel like a lot of people, especially like today, I hear this notion quite often is that like somebody starts talking about something in the group of people and somebody says, "Oh, you're just you're a vibe killer, man. You're just like you're ruining the time that we're having right now. Like I don't want to hear this kind of thing. Like save it for another time."
Well, I mean, we can also double down on that, and we can also talk about how, like, you're gonna find a lot of guys these days that are very either confrontational when it comes to, hey, this is how I like, this is my way of doing things. Don't like veer from that, or don't piss me off, don't get in my way. And you have other guys that are very non-confrontational, and they just let all these hateful emotions be pent up inside of them until one day they just, either blow up or have an extreme reaction. As someone who's always had roommates in his life, I can vouch for that. Usually it's a lot healthier to speak your mind on something that's bothering you, but then sometimes you'll see that if you speak your mind too much, it starts to dilute all your complaints,
And it creates
So,
confrontation.
yeah, well, people don't want confrontation. Like, if people want confrontation, it's a lot easier to speak your mind and complain about something. But if people are constantly trying to avoid it and you're the one that's constantly bringing it up, you become the bad guy.
Yeah,
When in reality, you're just trying to make things more comfortable for yourself. You're essentially expressing your emotions and look what happens to it.
yeah. You're trying to set
But
up like
again,
ground rules and all.
yeah, but again, people also don't like people that are non-confrontational because as men, we are taught that if you want something or need something, say it out loud and it'll be done. Some people like to play games. Oh, I want it to be implied that I want this, or I think that it's more, I think they should just know that this is what I want. And that's a load of shit too. No one's gonna read your fucking mind. And this goes out to all women that think guys are gonna read your mind. We don't do that.
Ho
You
ho.
tell us directly what you want, and we're gonna try to get it for you. More times than not, we will do it. But the biggest miscommunication there is that it's the not saying directly what you want. And again, like we talked about it a second ago, sometimes people are gonna complain about something. It's not usually a call to action. It's literally just a, I'm having a bad day. I want someone to listen to me because I want to express myself. It'll make me feel better. And as the guy, your call to action was literally just to listen, not to do anything, you know? So I think there's always going to be that miscommunication, but if the relationship's established as if you want me to do something, say it and I'll do it, or, I'll assess whether or not it's a reasonable request, then yeah, more power to you. But I think there's like that's the suppression of expressing yourself too in a confrontational manner.
So I will say this too, like in regards to you were mentioning how you said women expect men to read their minds. That's not actually just on women. I've had family members who kind of expect me like you need to be like on your shit, be like asking us what's up, da da da, and I'm like, I'm not your mom. I told my own family, like, I'm not your mom. I'm your son or your whatever family member, whatever sort. I'm still human. If you have a problem, you got to tell me. I have my own life. I have my own issues I need to handle and my own daily requirements. I can't float around and try to interpret your actions to see what the fuck you might be feeling. It's not gonna work with me. People don't like that. They're like, well, you need to be more cognitive and try to, like, be interested. I'm like, I'm interested because you're alive and I want to make sure you're okay, but I'm not going to climb out of my skin to make sure that you're, like, not having any issues, especially if you choose not to tell me anything. I can try to pick up a little bit on body language if something is really, like, pretty obvious, but even then, like, you shouldn't expect me to have to do that. Secondly, with me personally, when I talk to people nowadays, I tend to have a tendency of asking them, like, hey, when they do want to talk about something, the first thing I usually ask them is, do you want to vent or do you want advice? Because depending on what they say, some people are askholes. I don't know if you have ever heard that term. It's a joke slang term, but it's basically a person who asks for advice. You give them your advice, and then they take your advice and go do the same exact shit they were doing before and complaining about essentially ignoring your shit. So that makes them an asshole. So for me as a person, like I've said, I've started whenever I talk to people, I always ask, like, do you actually want my input and see what I would do in your position, or what I would advise for you to do to make your issue solvable? Or do you just want to sit here and tell me how shitty your day was?
So let me ask you guys this then. I mean, it's a tale as old as time where you hear, like, a woman has an issue. Like, what? It's like comedic. Go to the well for this when you're, like, on doing stand-up. Oh, my wife, I don't know what's going on with her. She doesn't want to tell me. And then they get mad at you for not asking. Or they'll get mad at you for et cetera, et cetera. I get it, dude. Women want a guy to always be the one to, like, be confrontational. I don't know why women have a problem with that, but it seems like the stereotype always holds up. We're not stupid, dude. Guys know that there's something wrong. But, like, please say something about it. It's not our fucking job to drag it out of you. We're not your therapist. This is everybody, not just women. I know, like, the dichotomy here is, like, it happens with women all the time, but other dudes, too. I think it's just a universal issue, a universal thing. If you're the one with the problem, if you're the perpetrator, please be the one to take action. It's not everyone's job around you to do that for you.
And if you're being the one who's being told what's wrong, don't be an asshole and start barking at them afterwards. Actually listen to see what they're saying, try to understand what they're saying, and if there is something that's worth actually arguing, then slowly try to interpret it, like, how do I approach this? Don't just go exploding right back at them, because that makes them not want to talk to you.
Right, so let me ask you guys this then. Is the act of oversharing something that's unique to men? Because you were a guy, we were talking about, like, 5 minutes ago, we kind of drafted, my thought was stuck about 5-10 minutes ago, but, like, when you talk about someone who overshares a lot, like you said that women are always being listened to with their problems, but as soon as the guy opens up, it's like, now you're just too much, and they're killing the vibe, etc. But I feel like that's anybody could do that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So let me, from experience, I know somebody, a guy, an old friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. I'm not going to mention their name. A lot of my friends know who this person is because notoriously, they rooted themselves out from my group of friends because of the fact that they were a fucking infinite black hole of emotionality. I don't know how to explain it. No matter what the fuck we did, no matter where you were, you get bombarded by text messages, or if you were around each other, it would always devolve into some sort of, like, fucking chaos and a rant. And I have respect for everybody. I don't want anyone to suffer, and I really want to listen to you as much as I possibly humanly can. But this guy would everywhere. Doesn't matter. And he literally, people just got tired of listening because he was a one trick pony. That's all it was. It was just like, here's my trauma for, like, hours at a time. Or if you weren't around, then you get text messages. You get, like, 30 text messages telling you about, like whatever, all the shit that happened. And I know people want to be listened to. Yeah, I sympathize. I really do. But that's, this guy literally wrote himself out of my group of friends, and I was the last person. I didn't even cut contact. I just got literally the physical, like, I couldn't respond to this guy fast enough. With, like, if I get like essays worth of stuff, I become a teacher. I'm, like, reviewing an essay, and I have to respond to this guy, and, like, I couldn't do it physically. So one day he gave up on me in a weird way, like, because I didn't get back to him, like, days at a time. So he's like, sorry for bothering you all this time, and I felt real bad. But the truth of the matter is, I didn't respond to him. I was just like, yeah, you're right, dude. I don't have the capacity for this. Like, a day, and there's no, like, living anymore after that point. So interestingly enough, yeah, like, I don't know if that's, like, a guy's mentality, or do women feel the same way, where it's like, if they have a friend who just does not shut the fuck up about problems, like, there's nothing else to life, it's just issues constantly? Are women always surrounding their friends and like it's okay, it's gonna be okay, no big deal? Or are they tired of it too? Or is it like just the guys like sentiment that they're just like tired of listening to shit 24/7? Or is it everybody? That's my question. Yeah.
I can't comment on women to women interactions because obviously I'm not a woman. But for me, like it's
What?
It's news to me.
but
Yeah.
but
Wait, well, then we need to get a token female on this because I thought you were the woman perspective. Fuck.
anyway,
Back to the drawing board, Danny.
Ah, fuck. Oh well, sorry,
Anyway.
bud.
but as we talked before, guys are usually a bit more inclined to listen to women's problems. Like whether it's your boyfriend, whether it's a guy that you're talking to, normally like it's kind of like we have to do our part to be there for you, to support you, so we tend to listen to you. A lot of guys, when it's a random dude, he's probably trying to get in your pants, so he's going to sit there and go through your whole entire spiel just to make sure that you're vulnerable enough for him to try to shoot a shot. In regards to just on a general point of basis, you know, I believe that everyone has a social battery, as the term today, where, you know, you go out and you basically are charged up and you're ready to go. You go to a party, you talk to people, yada yada, but by the end of the night you're kind of drained. You're like, okay, this is too much. I'm ready to go home and hide underneath my fucking rock. I feel like everybody has that, whether you're doing a face-to-face at a party or in private over text. Everybody has a threshold that they can essentially consume enough information where to the point that they're like, yo, like you're just becoming too much. And it sucks because, you know, that's one of those things where people on the giving end of that, who are giving all this information, feel like, am I becoming a pest? Am I becoming a nuisance? Should I just stop talking and, you know, suppress my feelings? What do you tell a person then? You say, hey, you need to go to therapy. There's also a huge, you know, people have a huge taboo with going to therapy. I know a lot of people who need to go to therapy who choose not to because they feel like they'll be judged. They'll be looked as lesser because you have to go to a professional and pay them money to listen to your problems. I mean, I don't know I honestly personally don't understand the taboo behind it. I've been in therapy myself. It's funny. My therapist, when I went to her for a few sessions afterwards, she was like, you know, I don't think you really need therapy. She was just like, I think you need to get away from certain people in your life, family-wise. And I was like, yeah, thank you for analyzing the same shit I've been telling everybody else. I mean, I told her, I'm like, I'm pretty self-controlling. I know what goes on around me. But, yeah, some people, they really do need it. And they're afraid. They don't want to be looked at as being weak or less. And that's, you know, that's speaking on a professional level. And tying it back to the original point, some people just don't want to talk about their feelings. Some people don't know. I personally don't know how to talk about my feelings. I've always been the kind of person who just handles my own shit.
Yeah, I think what you said earlier too about like what do you tell a person when it's just been too much? I think it goes both ways. Like it's not only what do you tell a person that's gone too much, but like how does that person analyze whether or not they're talking too much? And I just think it takes one person to tell them straight up, or for the most part, they just need to be like learn how to prompt it, like wait till somebody asks you what's up with you. Because I think people also need to, again, be a better gauge of what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. And I think sometimes, like, people have really bad timing. Like, there's been a lot of times where I'm just trying to go out and I want to be a good friend to someone, but then they go on some kind of, like, emotional shit. And I'm just like, bro, this is not the time for this. Then they want to keep going. And then my options are either I ruin my night to go get dragged down by them, or I dump it on somebody else. Or, you know, I just, you know, just enjoy my time and ignore it. There's really no right way to approach it, but I think that person also needs to analyze, like, you know, am I just looking for drama at this point? Like, is everything in my life really so bad that I have to express it? Or can I kind of just keep this to myself and see what happens and then talk about it? You know what I mean? I
Question.
just think there's, yeah.
Sorry, are you done? I have no idea.
No, I'm pretty much done.
Okay.
I'm just rambling.
Question. This hypothetical, or this where if you're drawing from real life, this person you're going out to,
Real life.
aka, it's okay. So this person you're gonna go see that's gonna ruin your night potentially. Is it a guy?
Sometimes it's a guy, yeah. It's
Okay.
been a guy.
Okay.
I mean, most of the time when it comes to shit like that, like, oh, I'm already drunk and I'm ready to go out to have a good time, it's usually that one dumbass that doesn't know how to drink and they get too fucked up and they're like ready to puke in the Uber on the way to whatever the event is. And you're just like, I'm not gonna let this be my problem tonight. Usually I'm gonna be the homie and take care of them, but nope, not my time tonight. And the thing is, you shouldn't expect anyone to have to handle that load for you. You know what I mean? It's
No, I
yeah.
agree, but I'm wondering, just trying to bring it back to the subject of the episode. You shouldn't have to expect somebody to carry the load for you, to burden themselves with your issues. Now, is that a guy's mentality? I'm wondering, how would you feel if the person you were going to go talk to was a woman? Does your stance change? Or are you still thinking, fuck, my night's ruined? Or you're like, oh shit, girl's coming to me with her problems. This might be fun. Might be interesting. Did your stance change? Like, honest question. For both
When
of
it was a female, nope. I was just like, ah, fuck, not this.
I think
I
it
do
varies in the
not want this.
relationship.
Okay.
I think if it's somebody that you're just dating,
Yeah,
it could be one way. If it's like a sister or a cousin or a really close friend, it's a different story. If it's a random person too.
no, 100%. I think there's not only the I have to wake up in the morning and be in the mood for this shit, or again, like your battery has to be fully charged to have to want to deal with bullshit to a certain extent, but then also the amount of battery you allocate to each person is heavily dependent on their relationship to you. Heavily. And also, would they do the same for you? Most of the time when I said fuck this, it was, nah, this person would do the same for me. And that really does drive the, I gotta just do my own thing and try to enjoy my night because I don't enjoy my nights too much. So,
I feel,
not tonight.
I don't know. I feel like, if I'm gonna generalize, because it's hard for me to gain perspective on this, because I don't know, I don't really sympathize with a guy's problem versus a girl's problem when it comes to mental health. I feel like my experience has been pretty, I have no idea. Maybe a lot of it is drawn from a man's perspective. Couldn't tell you. But I will say this, I think it's more difficult for a guy to find somebody who's gonna talk to them at, like, whatever, in the middle of the night, or go rush to their aid.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know, among guy circles, or maybe you think to yourself, no one wants to listen to me. If it's a girl, like, it's a little, I feel like if I go ask a girl for her help, I'm putting myself in the friend zone. I can't help but think about it sexually, even though I'm not trying to do anything sexually. But I put myself in a position like that where I need someone's advice and I have to go talk to someone about my mental health, and it's a woman, then I'm like erasing any chance I have with them. All right.
So
Which
if it's
is,
your sister, what are you gonna say about that?
I don't talk
Like,
to my sister about this, about my mental health, or my mom.
it's an
I don't
Alabama
know.
joke.
Yeah, okay, shut the fuck up. Right? And if I have to go bother a guy about it, then I don't feel like I'm gonna have like a real interesting, a worthwhile conversation, because I feel like the what's gonna come back at me is either gonna be the same fucking generic answer you get from any guy, which is like, oh man, just gotta tough it out, or like, oh, you don't need that bitch. Just fucking laundry list of just fucking generic answers you pull out of a hat. So I don't know. I feel like from a guy's perspective, it's hard to find somebody to deload some of the burden. Like you said it yourself, I don't even want to sometimes. But like if I'm going to, if I'm gonna have like a therapy moment amongst friends, I don't know who the fuck to turn to sometimes. It's like, well, I'll let this just like simmer until it comes out one day at a party at like 3 a.m. I don't know, which I've done. I know myself enough where I'm the guy who rants at 3 a.m. and I'm never like violent or like or emotional. It usually comes out in like laughter, but I talk a lot. And Omid knows this. Vlad, maybe you've been around this, but I know myself. I start to rant a lot in like weird situations when no one's asked for it, and I cut myself off. But because I don't like find myself at any given moment going out of my way to talk about, to express myself amongst my male friends, which is like a majority of the people I know as platonic. They're all male friends, except for the one non-platonic male friend. I mean, Schwarzenegger. Anyway, so don't look at me like that. All jokes aside, yeah, I find in a man's world, I don't know who to, like. Sometimes it's hard to turn to somebody. Like I can't just drop somebody on like the drop of a hat. Can't just hit someone up. I don't know. I feel like it's just not worth my time.
I I think that me personally, I think that there are people out there that you need to have in your life that you can call up about anything. They're hard to find. I've had to play that for a few people in my life, like primarily, well, like I said, Steve. He's one of my friends for a long time, and usually when he has a big problem, he reaches out and we talk. In recent times, I've learned that Steve's kind of an asshole, specifically with women. And when he reaches out to me about that, I tell him like, "Yo, it seems like maybe it's time to cut that loose because it's not helping you. It seems to be hurting you. It seems to be a source of your problems mainly." And he doesn't listen. He kind of ignores it entirely and just does his own thing. After a while, I'm like, dude, why do you complain to me about this? You're not changing. You're not doing anything. You're just literally venting. If you want to vent, I'll sit here and listen, but I'm not going to say anything back. And he gets angry. He's like, why don't you say anything? Why don't you respond? I'm like, because there's no point. You're literally just looking to play the victim at that point because you feel bad and you want me to feel bad for you and you just want to complain. And I'm not going to sit here and talk to a wall who's not going to fucking listen to me and respond and do what I give them as a response. Some people just really do want to waste your time and bitch.
Yeah, but that's specific to one person. We're talking about men in general.
No, I know. I'm giving as an example. But I said that overall, I do think that everybody, regardless of whether you're a man or woman, you should have a friend or two that, you can call up at any time and just talk to them. I try to be that friend for the people that I'm around because I've had, I have guys and girls who have called me at random times, sometimes at 4 a.m. in the fucking morning when they're drunk and just talk because they're having a bad time, something happened. I don't mind it. And I think that everybody deserves to have that kind of friendship. I don't think that everybody can do that. It's definitely a select few, but you have to kind of weave through your friend circle to find the people that will be willing to and are able to handle that sort of shit.
I'm 100% that friend, but like I actually relish the opportunities where I get to talk to somebody on a deep level because I don't feel like it comes up too often. But my concern is, Vlad, have you ever done that for anyone else? Have you been the one to reach out to people and talk about express your emotions? And I think that's the big problem. I feel it's tough for somebody to accept that. Like a guy, someone emotionally stifled like myself. Like I said, I can't tell if my perspective comes from male perspective solely or my personal experience. That's a whole different episode. But you and I have never gone out of our way, or if ever, I don't think I actually have personally, to contact and reach out to somebody. And I mean, do guys do that? That's a legitimate question.
I mean, I've called you in the past and we've talked about stuff. I think I'll be like, hey, how's it going? What's new? And I try to kind of dig into your personal life a bit. I don't know if I get very far, but we've had conversations about
you
things.
Don't. I know that for a fact. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like I said.
And now you've infiltrated his personal life.
Now I can't go 6 feet without running into the big Russian guy.
Yeah. But I mean, like I said, in regards to as a friend for me personally, I try to at least also sometimes from time to time, if I have time, which lately I don't have a lot of, if I'm driving especially, I'll put on a Bluetooth and I'll call a friend and be like, hey, how's it going? I have probably 17, 20 minutes in between my stops and I'm like, what's up? And try to talk to them. If I have to stop and talk for half an hour, I will. It doesn't hurt anybody to, from time to time, just simply enough call up the people that you know and care about and just be like, how's it going? It will not take a whole chunk out of you. You can ask how the family is. You can ask how's work, how's life, how's the relationship. Just do the basic near necessity. It can go a long way for many people.
Which I respect a lot about you, but why don't you yourself
Because
I'm
not one of those people who needs it. I have always been the person who's always pulled myself up by the bootstraps and kind of done things myself.
Okay, so that's a personal, I guess it's personal to you.
Yeah.
But do you admit? But you admit that people, that guys need to express themselves. Is that why you're going out of your way to call these people?
No,
guys need.
I feel like just from experience of from my experience of doing this and reaching out to people that I know, I've had these conversations spark where they start basically outpouring their situations, and I'm kind of like, okay. And I listen to them, and I'm like, so do you want my advice, or do you just want to vent? And they'll say, yeah, what do you think? And then I'll respond, And usually, like, they feel a lot better afterwards. So that's my goal, is to make them feel better. Whether they take my advice or not, I unfortunately can't verify it unless I see them every single fucking day or pretty close to that. But um, it's just, for me, it's the action of trying to ease the pressure on them a bit. And so actually, I should probably retract my statement from before. I have before, when I was younger, after one of my relationships, I wasn't exactly in a great place myself. I had people that I was hanging out with. Steve was one of them, who I talked about having my anger issues. I don't do it much. That was like one period of time when I was like 23, but that was about it.
So you can actually pinpoint the last time you expressed any emotions.
Fuck you, bitch.
But
No, but I respect it
Yeah.
though. Like, I think a lot of us are acting as if it's a necessity that everybody needs to do, but at the end of the day, it's not. Some people are well equipped to do it themselves, and if it works for them, great. Some people, not as much, and they need to let it out. By all means, let it out. But again, that comes with the caveat of like, know your boundaries.
Yeah. Oversharing is definitely a thing, and honestly, like Russians say, we have a saying, "Меньше знаешь, лучше спишь," which translates to "the less you know, the better you sleep." Sometimes oversharing can fire back because you're giving out personal information somebody can use it against you.
Yeah, but it's like I said before, man. Is oversharing like universal, or is that just how we feel as men?
I think everybody has their capacity. Some people have a low battery, as the Vlad put it, and they don't want to take in a lot or they don't want to take anything at all. Don't talk to them about it. And there's some people that are overly empathetic and they want to hear everything. They want to be there for everyone, by all means. And then there's people you pay to handle your problems. So, if you can afford it, take it to them. But I think everybody has a certain capacity, and if everybody had 100% capacity to be able to listen to everyone's problem, therapists wouldn't have a job.
Very true.
I will, and I will say this, that in regards to what Danny asked, is it's a universal thing. I've had women as well as men who have asked me, "Hey, am I annoying you? Am I a nuisance?" So people, regardless of their gender, have felt like they are going too far, and they feel like they're becoming a burden on those that they speak to. And don't get me wrong, honestly, even with me, like, I've had people talk to, sometimes they've unloaded a lot on me, and I'm just kind of, after a while, I'm kind of like, dude, Jesus Christ. I mainly get annoyed by the fact when people who are asking for advice don't take the advice and just come back with the same problem over and over because they don't try what I've told them. That's usually what kind of bothers me, as the person who has to basically play therapist.
Okay, so
Has to is a strong word, but chooses to.
Yeah, well,
When you put yourself in that
Yeah.
position and you get taken for granted is when you get pissed off. We're just like, okay, so I was just here to listen to your bullshit and you went off and hurt yourself again. Well, it looks like all my efforts went to shit.
Yeah.
All you learned was that you can take advantage of me and use me as a microphone.
Yep.
well, sometimes people just need to vent. Who cares about the advice portion?
Yeah, which is what we referenced before.
Yeah, but
Some
even if
people
they
don't
ask
really
for it.
want the advice.
Even if they ask
But I
for
think
it.
that's the hard part. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's always the hard part too, where I think we've all had that friend where we're just like, dude, you should probably break up with them. Yeah, I'm gonna fucking do it. A week later, yeah, we're still together, or even worse, yeah, we got back together. You guys have the same one that's happened to. I have plenty of friends where it's the same shit, and at that point, like, even sometimes, even I'm like, okay, I got enough battery for this, because everyone's human and everyone makes mistakes, and you got to understand that, like, in their minds, their situation is unique, and it hurts regardless. So you want to be there for that friend.
I don't know.
But yeah, go
So
on.
I don't know. I still don't. I want this to be an audience question because we rarely do that, but I need something from the other perspective. It's not working for me on this podcast. I'm surrounded by just fucking sausage fest over here. But if like in a women's world, when you're surrounded by women peers, like, is oversharing a thing, or is just like everyone's readily available to listen to you talk and rant and etc. etc. I really need to know what it's like on the other side. Because I agree with all you guys here. Like, yeah, it's kind of annoying when the people just kind of keep venting their issues to you on a daily basis or whatever when it's not warranted. But
If we've learned anything
yeah.
from the NCAA, you can always make the decision to be on the other side.
God damn it.
And it's a different game
Christ.
altogether.
I had a
What?
question in regards to one thing that you actually mentioned was with the school shooter. Do you think that people, because they're not able to express their emotions, are, well, specifically kids, I guess in this case, white male kids are becoming more and more thralled towards extreme acts of violence, such as shooting up schools, malls, theaters, whatever, because they're not able to express themselves verbally, emotionally, or is it because maybe they're just being brainwashed with political ideology and conspiracy theories?
I mean, I can't
Oof,
speak
that's
for all of
deep.
them, but I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever heard anybody doing it based on some kind of conspiracy theory or ideology. For the most part, I think they're doing it because of some kind of perception of what the social norm is or what they think that life owes them. Like, I think that guy who shot up Santa Barbara just needed to get laid, but nobody wanted to sleep with him, and he felt entitled to pussy. So, I mean, that's all his problem. I think generally most guys or anybody that doesn't act like this is either sociopathic and really can't think logically. But the only way that you can logically come to the conclusion that shooting up a school is the way to go is what can I do to prove to the world that I do have ultimate power and everyone's actions against me has ultimate consequences? And it's what you get is inflicting pain and asserting your dominance with some, you know, artificial power. I think that's what most people want. Like, why do people scream at all? Why do people get angry and yell? I think that is an emotion that comes from fear, and it's fear of losing control. That is the origins of stress. You get an adrenaline rush when you feel like your life's in danger, you're not in control, and you need to manifest some supernatural power. You got to allocate all your energy into what's going to lead to survival. And sometimes survival is I need to regain power. I need to prove that I'm the dominant one because I'm losing. And I think that is the origins of somebody that wants to commit such a vile act like that. Same thing with if we want to bring it back to Will Smith. How did he feel the appropriate response was? To stand up on stage and in front of everybody assert his dominance on another male.
What about fight or flight? Could that be argued into this kind of situation?
That's literally what I'm saying. It's fight or flight. When you choose fight, you're choosing to take back your dominance. That's your fight. Because if you lose all control of your life, you essentially only get more stressed. We talked about it in the same episode as being offended. When you let somebody else dictate your emotions, you're letting them control how you feel. Because you let them elicit that stress response in you. Now you're releasing cortisol, and now your body is fucking itself up because you, for some reason, felt like your life was in danger because someone said something. Same thing goes when you lose control in any situation. When your body is stressed out over a long period of time, instead of epinephrine, your body has to adapt and release cortisol, and cortisol seriously hurts you in many different ways. And that's just a physical manifestation of harming yourself because of what you thought. And now we're talking about people who have no control over their life, but they think they should. For example, someone who thinks they deserve pussy, they have no control over that pussy, but it's owed to them, so it has to come to them. No. But I think if people expect something to come to them, they're going to find ways to make it so that they can prove that, hey, I'm a living being too and I deserve this too. But, I can't speak for these people and how they got to where they
I feel like
are.
that's a 1984 type of rhetoric where it's like, I deserve this. That's why you kind of, in that book, you essentially got everything from like being able to sleep with anybody you wanted. You were able to get any drug you wanted, experience any emotion you wanted because the world was providing it to you on a platter.
Right. Right. But I don't know if it has anything to do with that. We're talking about what literally happened in what, 2016, 2015. Some kid shot up a college because he wasn't getting laid on, ironically, one of the most like easiest campuses in the UC system.
It was the kid with the
So,
BMW, right?
I don't know. He was some Russian kid.
Was it?
Or, I don't know. Now that we're in a war with Ukraine and people know what Ukrainians are. It's hard to just say Russian. Now you have to like specify which Russian-ish country he's from. I don't fucking know. I don't give a shit.
Slavic. Just say
It's all the
Just say
same.
Slavic.
Baltic.
Baltic. You know,
Baltic.
so much I give a shit about the
Whatever.
topic.
Whatever makes you feel better about yourself, Vlad.
But,
He's one of yours.
yeah. Interesting enough, another audience question. Has there ever been like a woman school shooter?
Nah, women
No.
tend to act out in like
Mm,
suicide. I'm just kidding.
Jesus
Um,
Christ. Yeah, you might be on
No,
something.
no, they just terrorize their boyfriends, you know.
I've had girls pop tires at schools for guys that I knew because they cheated or something. That's usually...
Oh, it's way more
Yeah.
personal with women, isn't it?
Yeah.
Gotcha. It's not.
No, but as far as female shooters go, as far as I know, there hasn't been a
Okay.
case of that ever.
Yeah, let us know in the comments. I mean, maybe they educate us. That'd be very interesting because obviously the stereotype is just like a white male, like school shooter or whatever. It's always
Well, the testosterone is the one that drives the needing for power.
Question.
just a male issue.
When you ever talk to somebody about something and, they get emotional. What is your response with people who, like, for instance, have short fuses, as an example, and they basically start yelling in an argument? Ideally for me is like,
I feel like we're gonna be the same on this one. Go. Go. No.
no,
you said-
I'm saying there's the saying that don't argue with a stupid person, quote unquote, because they will bring you down to their level and beat you with experience. Which basically they're saying, like, quote unquote, stupid people, they don't know how to argue, they just start yelling. They start releasing this emotion of anger, and at that point you're kind of there's no point of like arguing that fight or flight type of stance anymore because they're no longer listening. And that's why that saying comes in, like, just let it go. They're no longer arguable.
Well, I feel like it's the same thing when you're arguing with somebody, and instead of coming up with legitimate arguments, their argument becomes delegitimizing their opponent versus actually coming up with a good counter. That's usually the sign of somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about, and now they're trying to divert attention away from the actual argument and put it somewhere else. In general, if I'm ever in an argument with somebody and they start to get offensive or start yell, I'm a troll, man. I feed off of it and I just keep my cool and I keep going, and it fuels me. I get a little bit of joy out of it. If ever I do play devil's advocate and I solicit that emotion, I know the person that I'm arguing with probably didn't have much of a leg to stand on, and it's just entertainment for me at that point. Ultimately, all these arguments that you have over social media or in person, they don't go anywhere, but people like to choose a side and be all passionate about it, and if they want to start to get all yelly and shit, by all means, go for it. I have no horse in this race. I'm not going to get offended by anything they say, obviously, so let's go.
That's fair. What about you, Danny?
I don't know. I lost track of what we're talking about anymore, dude. This is not even like a mental health. You guys are talking about arguing with people.
Well, it's a mental health issue. If someone
What about
feels
women
the
argue
need to,
too?
like,
I don't, like, why are we talking about men? What are we arguing about?
We were talking about men specifically. We said when a person starts to release their anger and starts yelling in an argument or a debate, and at that point you just have to your advice to just stop arguing because it's that fight or flight mentality at that point. And they say you can't argue with a stupid person because they generally run out of argument. They just start getting angry and yelling. That's when you have to just back off, because if you don't, they bring you down to their level and they beat you with experience.
That's universal though. That's why
I'm not saying it's just men. I'm brought that up as a mental health factor, generally speaking. That's why I was asking what your thoughts were. But anyway,
well, like, how did Chris Rock react? He laughed it off.
yeah,
Moved on with the show.
I tend to be evasive. I don't argue. I mean, if people want to actually cause issues, they really want to get into it, sure. And then I try to diffuse any situation. Yelling kind of just turns me off of the entire thing. I just kind of laugh and I just find something else to do with my time. I don't know. I don't argue with a wall of anger. They can't. Like, I don't know what you want from me.
what's it called? With regards to Chris Rock, like you were asking, I think that he handled it in the most professional manner he could because he's getting paid for, hosting the Oscars. And he got his paycheck. Whether this whole confrontation was legitimate or not, that's debatable. There's a picture that I sent out to each of you that kind of showed little points of like how Chris Rock was standing. He wasn't trying to move or get out of the way when Will Smith is clearly approaching him. And, he, instead of being like, fuck, back off, he didn't move. And there was notice after the slap, nobody called security, nothing happened. Just kind of like, oh yeah, well, he just got slapped in the face, fuck it, moving on.
Yeah, if you think about it, that dude should have been escorted out of the building.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I feel like it was scripted because honestly,
I feel like it was. Yeah.
Oscars had no views for many years at this point, essentially, and this brought everybody pouring onto that goddamn show because of that slap. So I think that's why they kind of maybe made something happen for views.
Yeah,
But that's me.
It looked a little staged. I'll be honest. He kind of cocked his head out and his head turned. It was a little weird.
Also, the slap didn't look like it landed on his fist. It looked like it landed on his shoulder, which is a stage move.
Or like that's bottom of his cheek, bottom of this area, kind of. You push the head instead of hitting it.
And there's also
Yeah.
here, I'll show you this picture. There's supposedly one of the photos, which if you zoom in, and it looks like there's padding on Chris Rock's face.
Just link it, and I'll put it in editing because I can do that cool shit.
I don't have linking, but I can send you the group chat. It's right there if you check your group chat. You can see the white mark.
Good. So Vlad just sent a photo that's gonna pop up on your screen right here, and you're gonna see it.
There's like a white mark on his face. It's gonna be supposedly padding. So we'll see. I don't know.
Okay.
That is not. Oh my god, y'all are stupid.
What? I didn't
That's
even
not
say anything.
fucking padding. It's makeup, and it's the reflection of the light,
Did
dude.
we lose Omid?
Probably. He deserves it. Anyway, so we're kind of running out of time here. I feel personally that we barely scratched the surface of men's mental health. I feel like we didn't even talk about it that much. And
Wait,
no,
am I not in this?
I mean, immensely, but that's fine. We're almost done with the podcast. So, what I will say, Vlad, I know this is your topic, but I never had a chance to bring this up because I feel like it's very important, especially when we're talking about men's mental health. Jesus Christ. Yeah, Omid's fucked up right now.
Omid, your connection is boo boo, buddy.
Yeah, get better internet, man. This episode brought to you by
I think it's
Xfinity.
my internet.
It really
he
is.
lost.
No,
He's
we're on
gone.
Xfinity right now, and it's fucking garbage. Please give us money.
Wait, he's back. Hold on. Can you hear us?
All right,
There he is. Hi, buddy.
I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's my internet acting up.
All right, good. So that's a good time to call this podcast for today. So we talked about men's mental health, but I want to leave this episode with one thing, and one thing that I never had a chance to bring up earlier, which is very pertinent to men's mental health, are these three words, which is "I love you." Take that for what you will, because I feel like it's very hard to express amongst other male peers. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to get into it. We're coming down to the end. Maybe episode 2, like a second part to this men's mental health podcast. We can discuss that further.
And suicide
Love
hotline.
me? You love me? You want to get into me, Danny? You're fucking gay.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, folks, right there. I feel like there's another episode coming in
We
the future.
should also put up a suicide hotline link just for people in case
God,
everybody
those
ever
are
needs it.
useless. God, those are useless.
I mean,
Another government-funded program that results in something like the Joker. Anyway, so that being said, Vlad, any final comments on your subject here?
if you need to talk, find somebody to talk. If you're somebody who can push through. Obviously, yeah. Try to talk. I will do my best to try and connect with people more in that regard. I don't know how, but I'll try. But for the people out there who feel like they're a nuisance, you're not. If somebody's telling you that they're your nuisance, tell them to go fuck themselves. Find better friends. Real friends will actually, regardless of how annoyed they might be, they'll make time to at least sit there and listen to you. They might not give you advice, but they'll at least listen to your problems, which is, half the battle.
Oh, Vlad, you're being so homosexual right now. That's a joke about the episode. Watch through it if you haven't already. So, that being said, thanks for watching another episode of Does This Offend You? That is Vlad, a real man. That is Omid, a lesser man. And I'm Danny, the superior man. Next week, we talk about cereal and how now they are pumping Adderall into the next generation. Thanks for watching. See you next week.
Thanks.